The richest black man in America walked into his own gala in a coat 3 sizes too big. 400 guests in pearls and black tie turned away on instinct. His face was streaked with grime. His shirt was faded, torn at the shoulder. His pants sat crooked, one leg high at the ankle, the other dragging the marble. Security moved toward him and stopped when Eleanor Whitaker raised one finger across the ballroom. Handle it quietly. No one knew the logo on every uniform was his. No one knew the key in his torn pocket opened every door. A young server set a paper cup of water beside his hand. She slipped a folded napkin into his palm and walked away. He unfolded it. He read 7 words. One of the 2 people who knew those words had been dead 22 years. He did not breathe for a full minute. 3 hours before the gala, Benjamin Harrington sat in the back of a black SUV parked on sublevel B3 of his own building. The garage smelled like concrete dust and old rain. His assistant, Damon Callahan, handed him a paper bag. Inside were the clothes of a man who had lost everything. Thrift store coat, shirt with a torn shoulder, pants 2 inches short on one leg, split brown boots. Benjamin took off his Patek Philippe and laid it on the leather seat. He took off his wedding ring. He had not removed it in 8 years. He set it next to the watch and closed his eyes for 1 second longer than he needed to. "Sir," Damon said, "last chance to call this off." "No." Mrs. Whitaker rearranged the seating chart this morning. Damon tapped his tablet. She moved table 3 to the service entrance corner. Benjamin's hand stopped halfway to the beard glue. Table 3 was the Keisha Memorial Scholarship Table. 12 young women who had made it out of single-mother households. His sister's name on every place card. Why? Her note says optics. Benjamin opened his wallet. Inside, behind his driver's license, was a photograph with a burnt edge. A young woman, 23, laughing at something just off camera. On her wrist, a bracelet of red glass beads and a small silver star. He touched the photo once. "Tonight, Key. I promised." He glued the beard to his jaw. "Damon, if anything unusual happens tonight, anything, you call Aunt Deborah first, before the lawyers." "Understood." Benjamin checked his reflection in the tinted window. He saw his father's jawline for the first time since he was 24. His father had died the year Keisha was born. Funny what a beard could remember for you. His father had been a longshoreman who saved nickels in a coffee can on top of the refrigerator. Benjamin had spent his 20s running away from that coffee can. He had spent his 30s denying it existed. He had spent his 40s paying other men's fathers' medical bills as a kind of apology he did not know how to address. The beard in the mirror looked like the coffee can looked at him every morning of his childhood. He let the resemblance sit. He stepped out of the SUV. Upstairs, in the ballroom that bore his name on the cornerstone, a young woman named Imani Brooks was polishing wine glasses. She wore the black uniform every Harrington hospitality server wore. On the breast pocket, stitched in gold thread, was a small compass rose, the Harrington Foundation logo. Imani touched it twice that morning when no one was watching. She did not know why. She only knew her mother's handwriting had described a compass in a notebook Imani had read so many nights in a row she had memorized the creases. Her supervisor, Eleanor Whitaker, walked the floor in heels that struck the marble like a metronome. 58 years old, silver blonde bob, a small silver star brooch pinned to her lapel. She had been chairwoman of the board of the Harrington Foundation for 15 years. Benjamin had given her the brooch in 2010 after the foundation crossed its first billion in distributions. She wore it every public night. She passed Imani without looking at her. "Brooks, 2 of the glasses are streaked. Do them again." Imani nodded. The glasses were not streaked. She did them again. Benjamin walked into the lobby through the front doors. He made it 8 steps before a valet stepped in front of him. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to, I'm here for the gala." The valet stared. A woman in pearls turned her face away. The concierge picked up the house phone. Eleanor Whitaker appeared at the other end of the lobby. She did not cross to him. She raised one finger. Handle it quietly. Two security guards flanked Benjamin. One was a young man named Travis, whose uniform bore the foundation compass, for the dignity of all people. Sir, this event is invitation only. I have an invitation. He did. It was in the inside pocket of the torn coat. He did not show it. He wanted to see how far they would go. They walked him toward the service corridor. At 6:52, in his private office 14 floors above the ballroom, the merger council left Benjamin a voicemail. Sir, if you don't countersign by Monday morning, the board votes without you. $40 million for next year's foundation budget is frozen until then. Benjamin was not in his office. He was sitting on a folding chair beside a mop bucket, listening to two line cooks complain about a woman named Whitaker who had cut 8 hours off their paychecks last week for a reason they could not name. He pulled the burnt-edge photograph out of his wallet one more time. Stars don't burn out, Key. They just wait to be seen. He did not know it yet, but 10 feet away, a 24-year-old server was writing those 7 words on a cocktail napkin with a catering pen. Imani found him first. She came around the corner of the service corridor with a pitcher of ice water, saw a man in a torn coat slumped on a folding chair, and did not flinch. She did not hurry past. She did not reach for her radio. She reached for a paper cup. Sir, here. Benjamin took the cup with 2 hands, the way a man takes a cup of water when he has not had one in a while. He kept his face turned toward the floor. Thank you. Have you eaten today? He shook his head. It was not a lie. He had been too nervous to eat. Imani disappeared into the kitchen. She came back 90 seconds later with half a dinner roll wrapped in a napkin. She set it on his knee like it was a wafer and she was a priest. Then her supervisor's heels turned the corner. Brooks, what are you doing? Giving him water, Mrs. Whitaker. Eleanor snatched the dinner roll off Benjamin's knee and dropped it in the trash can with enough force to make the lid rattle. She turned to Benjamin. Sir, you need to leave. Now! Imani stepped a half-inch closer to Benjamin, not blocking, just there. He's a person, Mrs. Whitaker. He's an aesthetics issue. Benjamin's jaw tightened under the beard. He kept his eyes on the floor. Eleanor turned to Imani. One more charity stunt, Brooks, and you are off the floor. 2 weeks, unpaid. Are we clear? We're clear. And I need you to speak to me in a tone that reflects your position. Yes, ma'am. Eleanor walked away. Her heels said metronome. Imani stood very still. She did not cry. She looked down at Benjamin and something strange happened in her eyes. A flicker, like she had seen something she recognized. She took a cocktail napkin out of her apron, wrote on it quickly, folded it twice, and pressed it into Benjamin's hand. If you need a place tonight, she said low, that number knows me. She walked away before he could answer. Benjamin did not open the napkin yet. He put it in his torn pocket and listened. Eleanor's voice came around the corner, thinner now, the way a voice goes when it thinks no one important is listening. Tell catering to hold the lobster bisque. 3 urns, all of it. Mrs. Whitaker, table 3 hasn't been served yet, especially table 3. They don't need 3 urns of lobster. Pull the bisque, pour it out. Ma'am, that's $1,200 of food. Pour it out, Gregory. A pause. Yes, ma'am. And move table 3. It's blocking the sight line from the press riser. Put it by the kitchen door. Mrs. Whitaker, that's the Keisha Memorial Table. I am aware of what table it is. Donors don't want to look at poverty while they eat. Move it. Benjamin closed his eyes. That table carried his sister's name. It had been the centerpiece of every foundation gala for 20 years. 12 chairs, 12 young women. They had been moved beside the kitchen door because a woman who wore a star brooch he had given her in 2010 had decided poverty was bad lighting. Imani came back to the service corridor 10 minutes later on her way to the bar. She did not look at him. She did look at the floor where the dinner roll had landed. She did look, briefly, at a bracelet on her own wrist, red glass beads with a small silver star woven into the cord, and then she was gone. Benjamin's pulse moved in a way he had not felt in 22 years. He pulled the napkin out of his pocket. He did not open it. He held it in his fist, the way a man holds a receipt he is afraid to read. A man in a dark suit walked past the service corridor holding a clipboard. He stopped when he saw Benjamin, cursed under his breath, and pulled a radio off his belt. "Whitaker, we still have the situation by the kitchen. Do you want me to call CPD?" Eleanor's voice came back through the static.
"No, Harrington is in Dubai. I have until Monday. Just keep the quiche table out of the press photos and get the homeless problem out of the building before dessert."
Benjamin walked. He walked past the kitchen, past the linen closet, past a young pastry cook who did not look up, and into an empty service stairwell that smelled like industrial bleach and old carpet. He sat down on the second step. He pulled the napkin out of his pocket. His hand was shaking. He did not know why. He had confronted senators. He had fired a CFO on Christmas Eve. He had buried his wife. His hands did not shake. He unfolded the napkin. Stars don't burn out. They just wait to be seen. Benjamin went very still. The fluorescent light above him buzzed and ticked. Somewhere above, a harpist was warming up on Moon River, playing the same phrase 3 times because she kept missing the same note. Benjamin did not hear any of it. The napkin slipped out of his fingers. He picked it up. He read it again. He read it a 3rd time, slower, the way a man reads a diagnosis. There were exactly 2 people on Earth who had ever heard that sentence. One of them was Benjamin. The other had been his sister, Keisha, 23 years old, 8 months pregnant, sitting up in a hospital bed 3 nights before the fire that killed her. She had said it with her hand on her stomach. She had said it because he had walked in crying about a board meeting he was afraid of. She had looked at him and said, "Benny, stars don't burn out. They just wait to be seen." 3 days later, the coffin was closed before he got there. 22 years he had carried those 7 words like something radioactive. He had never said them out loud to anyone, not Aunt Deborah, not his late wife, not his therapist, not even in prayer. He turned the napkin over. In the bottom right corner was a small star drawn in blue ballpoint. Under the star, 3 words. From Key. Benjamin stopped breathing. He did not decide to. His body simply forgot the instruction. When he remembered, his first breath came out as something between a laugh and a sound he had never made before. He pressed the heel of his hand against his mouth. He fumbled his phone out of the torn coat pocket, the old flip phone Damon had given him for the night, and called Aunt Deborah. It was 9:52 on the East Coast. She would be awake. She was always awake. "Benny?" "Deb." His voice was not his voice. "The fire. You saw her body." Silence. "Benny?" "Deb, did you see her body?" "The coffin was closed, Benny. You know the coffin was closed. They said the damage. They said we shouldn't." "Deb, somebody just handed me her words." A sharp inhale on the other end of the line. Then nothing. Then, very quietly, "Which words?" He read them to her. A small, broken sound came through the phone. Aunt Deborah, who had buried a niece and raised a nephew and never cried in front of either of them, was crying. "Benny, I need to tell you something I've been carrying for a long time." "I'm listening." "There are letters, 15 of them. She sent me one every year on your birthday. I never opened them. I was so angry at her for running.
I thought if I opened them, I would forgive her, and I didn't want to forgive her yet. Benny, I never opened them. Deb, get in a car, come to the pavilion, tonight. I'm 40 minutes away. Bring the letters. He hung up. He put his forehead down on his knees. He let himself have 90 seconds. Then his phone buzzed again. Damon. Sir? I pulled Imani Brooks's HR file. Mother listed as deceased. Mother's maiden name? Harrington. Benjamin read it 3 times. He wiped his face with the torn sleeve of the coat. He stood up. He put the napkin in his shirt pocket, right over his chest, where it would stay dry. He had come tonight to find who was stealing from his foundation. He was going to stay to find who had been stolen from him. He could not confront Imani yet. If he broke cover now, Eleanor walked. If Eleanor walked, she got into the safe deposit box at First Federal before midnight, and whatever was in there walked with her. He had spent 22 years missing his sister. He could spend 4 more hours. He went back to the service corridor. He kept his head down. He kept the napkin over his heart. Damon's first message. Schedule overrides on Brooks. Red flagged 3 times. Close, open, close, back to back. Violates her contract. Benjamin watched Eleanor walk past with a clipboard. He memorized which drawer she slid it into. Damon's second message. M.O.U. Signed this afternoon. Whitaker to Meridian Holdings. 33% of the foundation. 22 million. Announcement. Monday. 33%. Meridian was the firm that had tried to buy his sister's scholarship program for scrap in 2015 and failed. Eleanor had been the one who told him to refuse them. Eleanor had been the one who wept at the board meeting where the vote went through. Eleanor had worn the star brooch that day. Benjamin breathed through it. He followed Eleanor down the back hallway at a distance and watched her stop at the HR director's office. The door was open 2 inches. Benjamin pressed himself against the wall. Brooks knows too much. Eleanor's voice. I want her moved to Aurora by next week. Different state, different branch, different floor. Eleanor, she's one of our best. She's a liability. Catering at Aurora, Section C, overnight shift. That's a demotion. Dress it as a promotion. She has a 3-year-old. She won't ask questions. Benjamin did not move until they were gone. He went down to the staff break room. It had 1 long table, 3 folding chairs, a microwave from the 90s, and a woman named Teresa Sullivan reading a paperback. Teresa was 58, silver hair in a bun, hands the color of old brass. She looked up at Benjamin over her reading glasses. She looked for a long time. Sit down, son. He sat down. You have her eyes. Whose eyes? You know whose. Teresa set the book down. I worked with Keisha Harrington in 1998. She was a junior events coordinator. Smart. Too kind for this building. Then one morning she didn't come in. Nobody spoke her name after. Eleanor was her supervisor. Teresa took off her glasses. I've been waiting 27 years for somebody to come through this door who looked like her. You took your time. Benjamin put both hands flat on the table because his hands had started shaking again. I thought she died in a fire. She didn't die in that building. She left it. Whether she died after, I can't tell you. But she walked out of here on her own feet. I saw her. She was carrying a red beaded bracelet in her hand. Benjamin closed his eyes. Teresa. Yes. Do you know a server named Imani Brooks? Teresa smiled for the first time. It was a slow smile. It was a smile with 27 years of patience inside it. I know her. She has the bracelet. He stepped into the back stairwell to breathe. He heard a voice on the landing below. Mama left me a notebook, remember? I read it again last night. Imani was on the phone. Benjamin flattened himself against the wall in the dark. She wrote about her brother. She said if I ever made it to this city, I should try. I think I might have found him tonight, Auntie. I'm not sure. He has her eyes. A pause, a small laugh, wet. I know I'm crazy. Zuri said her prayers. Another pause. Tell her Mama loves her. I'll be home by 1. I love you. She hung up. He could hear her breathing on the landing, not crying, just breathing, the way a person breathes when they are trying to hold something in their chest that wants out. She sat down on the top step. He heard the soft sound of her forehead against her own knee. Benjamin had spent 22 years building a foundation whose stated mission was to reach the exact woman sitting on the staircase 15 feet below him. He had paid consultants millions to find women like her. He had never once been in a stairwell at the same time as one of them. He had hired people to stand in stairwells for him. One of those people had just tried to ship this particular woman to Denver so she could not be found. He did not move. He let her have the staircase. Benjamin did not move for a long time. He went back upstairs. He had one more thing to watch. Imani was waiting at the service door to Eleanor's temporary office. She knocked once. She went in without waiting. Benjamin crossed to the door and pressed his shoulder against the hinge side, out of sight. Mrs. Whitaker? Brooks, I'm busy. You're moving me to Aurora. Don't. A pause. How did you? I have my mother's journal. She wrote your name in it 12 years ago. I didn't understand it when I was 12. I understand it now. A longer pause. Brooks, you don't know what you're playing with. I know exactly what I'm playing with. If you finish the Meridian deal on Monday, I file everything I have on Tuesday. My mother wrote down the 2003 agreement. She wrote down the money. She wrote down the sentence you said to her in the parking garage. I have photocopies of pages in your handwriting. Mrs. Whitaker, you taught my mother how to disappear. You will not teach me. Silence. Then Eleanor, very quietly, leave my office. Imani left. Benjamin stayed against the wall until his breathing slowed. Then he pulled his flip phone out and texted Damon 3 words. End her tonight. Damon's reply came within 20 seconds. Sir, one more thing. Whitaker just called a taxi for 10:45. Destination, First Federal Safe Deposit. She's moving files. Benjamin checked his watch. 10:12. He had 33 minutes to take everything that mattered out of her laptop before she locked it. He walked toward her office with the napkin over his heart and his sister's voice somewhere above his left shoulder, 30 years late and exactly on time. Eleanor's laptop was open on her desk. Damon was already in the chair when Benjamin came through the door. Damon did not look up. His fingers were moving. She didn't lock it, sir. She hasn't locked it in 6 years. I checked the metadata. How long? I have 8 minutes before CloudSync flags the activity. Stand by the door. Benjamin stood by the door. Damon cloned 4 folders to a thumb drive. /Meridian_MOU/schedule_overrides_2024/2003_archive. Sir, the 3rd folder. You should see the contents. Benjamin crossed the office and leaned over Damon's shoulder. There were 14 names, every one of them a frontline worker at a foundation property. 3 columns beside each name. Wage cuts possible. Family pressure points expendable. At the top of the list was Brooks, Imani, 24. Single mother, daughter Zuri, age 3. Daycare debt, $2,800. Mother deceased, no spouse. Benjamin gripped the back of Damon's chair. Open the 2003 folder. Damon clicked. 1 file, a scanned PDF. Header, Severance and Non-Disclosure Agreement. Party 1, Keisha Harrington, age 23. Party 2, Harrington Foundation. Date, March 11th, 2003. In exchange for the sum of $8,000, Party 1 agrees.
to depart the city of Chicago within 72 hours, to make no further contact, written or verbal, with Mr. Benjamin Harrington, to make no claim regarding the pregnancy referenced herein, to make no disclosure to any third party regarding her departure or its cause. Signatory for Party 2, Eleanor K. Whitaker, Employer Representative. Benjamin read it twice. He read it a third time. A second document was attached. It was a handwritten letter, scanned at low resolution on hotel stationery. Eleanor's handwriting. He knew it from 15 years of memos.
Keisha, I will say this to you one time. You are a distraction. He is building something that will outlive all of us, and you are a pregnant 23-year-old who will drag him back into a childhood he has spent his whole life climbing out of. He will never forgive you for it. You know that. Take the money. Go. Raise the baby somewhere he cannot find you. The baby will be better off not knowing him, and he will be better off not knowing the baby. I'm not sorry. One day you will thank me.
Benjamin sat down on the floor of Eleanor Whitaker's office and put his forehead against his knees. Damon did not say anything for a long time. Then Damon put one hand on Benjamin's shoulder. In 15 years of employment, he had never once touched his boss. Damon had started as an intern answering phones in 2011. Benjamin had promoted him the day his daughter was born, because Benjamin had noticed Damon came in at 6 and left at 6, and never once asked for a raise. Damon was 41 years old and had a voice like a man reading a bedtime story. He kept his hand on Benjamin's shoulder and did not move it. "My mother lost a brother in 1989, Damon said. She never found him. I'm not going to let you put this envelope down tonight, sir." "Sir, take 5 minutes." "I don't need 5 minutes. Take them anyway." Benjamin took them. When he stood up, Teresa was in the doorway. She was holding a leather-bound notebook. The cover was cracked at the spine. The gold edge on the pages had gone dull. "Imani left this in her locker. She asked me to give it to you if you were who she thought." Benjamin took the notebook. He opened it at random. The handwriting was Keisha's. "The woman in the stop-in told me he would hate me if I stayed. She made me believe it. I wanted to call him. I stood by a payphone in Gary, Indiana for an hour in the snow, holding a quarter. I did not call. I have spent 20 years wishing I had put that quarter in the slot. Zuri, if you ever read this, find your Uncle Benjamin. He has my eyes. Give him the bracelet. Tell him stars don't burn out. They just wait to be seen." Benjamin closed the notebook. He held it against his chest the way a man holds a child. "Teresa?" "Yes, Benny." "My aunt is in the lobby. Go bring her up." "I already did. She's down the hall. She's got a shoebox." Aunt Deborah came in with a shoebox of unopened letters and a small velvet pouch. She set both on Eleanor's desk. Her hands were steady. Her eyes were not. "She sent me something in 2003 I never showed you." She opened the pouch and slid out a bracelet of red glass beads with a small silver star woven into the cord. She wrote on the note, "For Benjamin, when he's ready to see it." I wasn't ready. I was angry. "I'm so sorry, Benny." Benjamin held the bracelet in his palm. It was warm. Damon checked his watch. "Sir, she's leaving the building in 11 minutes. Benjamin put the bracelet in his shirt pocket next to the napkin. "Then I have 10. The main ballroom was full when Benjamin walked onto the stage. He was still in the torn coat. The beard was still glued to his jaw. His shirt was still faded and split at the shoulder. He had not cleaned the grime off his face. He wanted the room to see exactly what it had turned away from 90 minutes earlier. Eleanor saw him first from her position by the cocktail fountain. Her wine glass froze an inch from her mouth. "Security!" Her voice cut across the string quartet. "Remove him! Now!" 2 guards stepped forward. Travis was one of them. Travis did not move his feet. Benjamin took the microphone off the podium. "Good evening." 400 faces turned toward the stage.
The string quartet trailed off. A fork dropped on a plate somewhere near table 9. "I'm Benjamin Harrington." He peeled the beard off his jaw and let it fall. A sound went through the ballroom that was not quite a gasp and not quite a breath. Eleanor's wine glass stayed where it was. The senator at table 1 stood halfway up and sat back down. A journalist at the press riser started recording without asking. Benjamin wiped the grime off his face with the torn sleeve. "Tonight, at a gala thrown in the name of my foundation, in a building whose cornerstone carries my name, I was invisible to every person in this room except 2. One was a security guard named Travis, who did his job with compassion. The other was a 24-year-old server named Imani Brooks, who gave me water, gave me bread, and was threatened with 2 weeks of unpaid suspension for it by the woman standing beside the cocktail fountain." Every head in the room turned toward Eleanor. Eleanor's hand went to her star brooch. "Benjamin, this is a misunderstanding. Let me—" "No." He nodded to Damon at the back of the room. The projection screen behind the stage flickered on. "The MOU with Meridian Holdings. $22 million. 33% of the foundation." Eleanor's signature at the bottom, dated that afternoon. A second slide. The expendable list. 14 names. Imani's at the top, with her daughter's name beside it. A third slide. An email thread in which Eleanor instructed catering to pour out $1,200 of lobster bisque rather than serve it to the scholarship table. The room had gone completely silent. Eleanor walked toward the stage. Her heels did not sound like a metronome anymore. "Benjamin, everything I did to protect what you built. You know that. You know that." "Eleanor, I have one more document." He nodded at Damon. The screen changed. The 2003 severance agreement. Keisha Harrington, age 23. Eleanor's signature at the bottom. And then the handwritten letter. Eleanor's handwriting on hotel stationery, enlarged until every word was legible from the back row. "You are a distraction. Raise the baby somewhere he cannot find you. One day, you will thank me." The senator at table 1 put his hand over his mouth. A woman at table 5 put her napkin down and walked out of the ballroom. Aunt Deborah stood up at table 3 and did not sit back down. Eleanor's face went the color of a sheet left in the sun. "Benjamin, that's been taken out of—" "You told my sister I would hate her. You took $8,000 from her. You took 22 years from me. You took a daughter I never knew existed, and you took a granddaughter, and you took my sister's last years, because you decided a black woman with a baby did not fit the brand you were building on top of my name." He took the cocktail napkin out of his shirt pocket. "This napkin was passed to me 90 minutes ago by a young woman who did not know whose building she was standing in. On it, she wrote 7 words. 7 words only 2 people on earth had ever heard." He unfolded the napkin and read it into the microphone. "Stars don't burn out. They just wait to be seen." The room made a sound. It was not a gasp. It was not a cry. It was the sound 400 people make when every one of them exhales at the same moment, because every one of them has, at some point in their life, been handed something small and folded by a stranger. And every one of them remembers the hand that gave it. A woman at table 11 took off her earrings and placed them on the tablecloth. She could not have said why she did it. A man at table 14 reached for his wife's hand. The senator at table 1 was not ashamed that his eyes were wet. The string quartet had not moved. The harpist had placed both hands flat on her harp and was looking at the stage. One of those 2 people was my sister Keisha, who I was told died in a fire in March of 2003. She did not die in the fire. She ran from this woman. She raised a daughter alone. She wrote that daughter a journal. She died of cancer 2 years ago
in an apartment I could have paid for 1,000 times if I had known she was alive. He lifted his head. Imani Brooks, would you come up here, please? Imani was standing at table 7 with a pitcher of ice water in her hand. She set the pitcher down on the table. She set it down carefully, the way a person sets down something breakable because her hands have started to shake and she doesn't want to drop it. She walked toward the stage. She did not hurry. She did not run. She walked the way her mother had walked out of this building 22 years earlier, on her own feet. When she reached the stage, Benjamin stepped down to meet her. She held up her left wrist, red glass beads, a small silver star. Benjamin took the bracelet from his shirt pocket, the one Aunt Deborah had kept for 22 years, and held it next to hers. The stars matched. Imani looked up at him. Her eyes were wet, but her chin was steady. Uncle? Niece. Aunt Deborah was already crying at table 3. Teresa was standing at the kitchen door with both hands over her mouth. Eleanor was still holding her wine glass, and in that moment the small silver star brooch fell off her lapel and hit the marble floor with a sound so small only the people in the first 3 rows heard it. She did not bend down to pick it up. 2 FBI agents walked in through the main doors at 11:17 p.m. and politely asked her to come with them. The gala did not end. Benjamin would not let it end. He took off his ruined coat, laid it over a chair, and sat down at table 3 in the faded shirt. Imani sat on his left, Aunt Deborah on his right, Teresa across the table. 12 scholarship students in cocktail dresses who had been moved beside the kitchen door 90 minutes earlier were now the closest table to the stage. Damon handed Benjamin a pen. Sir, in order. Benjamin signed 6 pieces of paper at table 3 in front of 400 witnesses and a press riser. 1. A 1-line letter to Meridian Holdings withdrawing the MOU and voiding the 33% sale, effective immediately. Your deal was with a fraud. The foundation is not for sale. It was never for sale. 2. The charter for the Keisha Harrington Council. 7 seats. 4 frontline workers, 3 former scholarship recipients. Veto power over any foundation decision above $500,000. Teresa Sullivan nominated as founding chair by acclamation of the 12 women at table 3. Teresa stood up. She did not make a speech. She said, I have 58 years of watching. Now I talk. You listen. She sat back down. Table 3 clapped for her until she made them stop. 3. A recovery fund. $2.4 million in recoverable assets, pending Eleanor's prosecution, to be redirected into the Keisha Harrington Memorial Scholarship. The program would expand from 12 awards per year to 120. The first cohort of the expansion would be named after Keisha's daughter at Imani's request, the Brooks 12. 4. The seat in the room policy. Every foundation board meeting from this date forward would include 2 empty chairs reserved for any frontline employee who wished to attend. No registration, no invitation, no permission required. The chairs would be reupholstered every quarter because frontline workers would be sitting in them. 5. The stranger clause. Any Harrington employee terminated in the past 5 years for showing kindness to a guest, a homeless person, or a stranger would be eligible for rehire at 20% above their last salary with back pay. Damon had the list ready. 14 names. 8 of them answered their phones that night. 6. This one, Benjamin wrote by hand on hotel stationery at the table. He slid it to Imani. I'm not putting you in an office. I am not putting you on the board. I am not making you rich tonight. You earn what you earn. Imani read it. She nodded once. What do you want, Imani? She thought for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was steady. I want to finish my degree. Not as your niece, as a scholarship student. Same paperwork as everyone else. Done. I want Zuri
in a real school. Not the best school, a real one, with other kids who look like her. Done. I want Teresa to have a chair that doesn't hurt her back. Teresa laughed, a low laugh that sounded like a door opening after a long winter. Done. And I want to read my mother's journal with you. Not tonight, some other night, when we're both ready. Benjamin could not speak for a second. Done. And one more thing. Anything. I want to apply to the Harrington Leaders Fellowship next cycle. Same application as everyone else, same interview. If I get in because I earned it. If I don't, I don't. I'm not taking anything I didn't earn, but I'm earning everything from here. She held out her hand. He shook it. A reporter from CNN approached Table 3 at 12:04 a.m. She asked Imani if she had anything to say to Mrs. Whitaker. Imani thought for a moment. Mrs. Whitaker thought she could bury my mother under a severance check. My mother outlived her lie by reading it to me in a journal every night for the last 6 months of her life. I don't have anything to say to Mrs. Whitaker. My mother already said it all. She went back to her water glass. At 12:19, Aunt Deborah walked across the ballroom and came back holding a 3-year-old girl in a pink sweater. Zuri had Imani's cheekbones and Keisha's eyes. Benjamin knelt down. Zuri looked at him for a long moment, then she tilted her head. Are you the uncle from Mama's notebook? Benjamin had to wait a second before he could answer. I'm trying to be. Zuri considered this. She nodded as if that was a reasonable answer from a grown man. Mama said you sing bad. Your mama was right. Zuri held up her arms. Benjamin picked her up. She weighed almost nothing. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and apple juice. She put her hand on his beard stubble, made a face, and laughed. She reached for his ear and tugged it, the way children tug ears they have just met and have decided to own. She pulled a silver star sticker off the inside of her own wrist, the kind preschool teachers give out for sitting still during story time, and pressed it onto the torn shoulder of his shirt. She patted it twice to make sure it stuck. There, she said, as if she had finished a small piece of important business. Now people will know. Benjamin looked down at the silver sticker on the torn shoulder. He looked at Imani. Imani was crying without making any sound at all. Damon came up to the table with a battered envelope in his hand. It was addressed to Benjamin. 2008. It had never been mailed. Aunt Deborah gave this to me to give to you, sir, if you want it tonight. Benjamin took it. He did not open it. He put it in his shirt pocket next to the napkin. Tomorrow. 3 weeks later, on a Sunday morning, Benjamin Harrington was losing a game of Candyland to a 3-year-old in his own kitchen. Zuri moved her piece. It was not her turn. Benjamin did not correct her. Imani, pouring coffee at the counter, caught his eye and smiled. The first unguarded smile he had seen on her face. You are going to ruin her, Uncle Benjamin. I am 6 decades late. I have catching up to do. Aunt Deborah was at the stove making pancakes in a cast-iron skillet she had brought from her own kitchen. She had moved into the guest suite on the 3rd floor for what she described as a visit of indeterminate length. On the counter beside her was the shoebox of letters. 15 unopened envelopes. Benjamin had read one every evening since the gala, in order, never more than one. He was up to 2009. Keisha had sent them every year on his birthday. Every year she had told him about Zuri. Every year she had told him she was almost ready to call. Benjamin poured Zuri a cup of orange juice. Sing me Twinkle Twinkle, Zuri said, not as a question. He sang it. He was flat on 2 notes. Imani laughed so hard she had to put the coffee pot down. Aunt Deborah flipped a pancake without looking up. He used to sing it to your mother when she was in a bad mood at the kitchen table. 1985. He was 18 and she was 12. She would pretend to hate it and then ask him to sing it again. He was flat on the same 2 notes then. She slid the pancake onto a plate. Your mother would have lost her mind watching this, Zuri. in the best possible way. Zuri did not know what that meant. She nodded anyway.
On Monday morning, Teresa Sullivan walked into her first board meeting as chair of the Keisha Harrington Council. She wore a clean blouse, pressed slacks, and the same reading glasses she had worn at the break room table. In her arms was a cardboard tray with 12 paper cups of onion soup from the pavilion kitchen. She set a cup in front of every board member, including the empty chair at the end of the table, one of the 2 seats in the room, which a line cook named Grayson had come in and claimed 10 minutes earlier and was now sitting in, eating soup.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Teresa opened her notebook.
I have 58 years of watching this industry treat the people who make the food like they are the people who made the mess. Today we are going to talk about the mess. Then we are going to talk about the people. And then we are going to drink our soup because it is good soup, and if we do not drink it, I will be offended. 6 C-suite executives drank their soup.
On the following Friday, Imani walked into the pavilion through the main doors for the first time in her life. She was wearing her own clothes, a navy blazer she had bought at a consignment store the day after the gala, her mother's bracelet on her left wrist, a folder under her arm with her fellowship application inside it, filled out in her own handwriting, not a word of it different from the 1,400 other applications that had been submitted that cycle.
The concierge did not stop her. The concierge recognized her and held the door. She stopped for exactly 2 seconds on the threshold. She did not cry. She did not smile. She nodded once and walked in.
Late one night that month, Benjamin sat alone in his study and opened the 2008 letter. It was 3 pages long. Keisha's handwriting had steadied by then. The first page was about Zuri turning 5. The second page was about a trip they had taken to a beach in Indiana where Zuri had found a rock that looked like a star. The third page was shorter.
Benny, if Deb ever gives you this, it means I waited too long. I want you to know 2 things. 1, I was wrong to listen to that woman. Every year I was wrong. Every year I should have called. 2, I was never wrong about you. You were going to do something with your life that outlasted us both. And you are doing it. And I watch the news sometimes at the library, and I see your name. And I sit in the chair, and I cry a little, and the librarian pretends not to see.
Zuri calls you Uncle Sunshine because I told her your laugh used to warm whole rooms.
Stars don't burn out, baby brother. They just wait to be seen. I see you. I always did.
Benjamin folded the letter. He slid it into a glass frame he had bought that afternoon. He hung it on the wall of his study next to a drawing Zuri had made him the previous Saturday. 3 stick figures holding hands under a crayon star, captioned, Yoons Ben plus me plus Mama. He sat down at his desk and wrote a note for Damon in the morning. Hire 3 more like Imani. Start with women who wait tables. Don't tell me who they are. I want to meet them at the council meeting. He turned off the lamp. He did not feel rich that night. He felt, for the first time in 22 years, like a man who had been found. The cocktail napkin sits in a small glass frame on the corner of Benjamin Harrington's desk. He does not look at it every day. He does not have to. It is there the way a lighthouse is there. You do not stare at it. You simply know which direction it is. Eleanor Whitaker was indicted on 12 counts, including wire fraud, conspiracy, and forgery of the 2003 severance agreement. She took a plea. She will be 63 when she is released. The star brooch he gave her in 2010 was logged into evidence and, at Benjamin's request, melted down and recast into a plain silver thimble, which now sits in a sewing kit in Aunt Deborah's guest suite. Stars are for people who earn them, Aunt Deborah said when he handed it to her.
Thimbles are for people who mend things.
The Keisha Harrington Memorial Scholarship graduated its first expanded cohort the following spring. 120 young women.
The first speaker at commencement was a woman named Imani Brooks, who had been accepted into the Harrington Leaders Fellowship 6 weeks earlier on the strength of an application the admissions committee did not know belonged to the founder's niece until after they had voted.
Teresa Sullivan serves onion soup at every council meeting. The board members complained for 3 weeks. Then they stopped complaining. They now requested. Zuri Brooks is 4. She still calls Benjamin Uncle Sunshine. She still sings Twinkle Twinkle off-key because he sings it off-key, and she assumes he is correct.
Benjamin keeps one other thing on his desk now. A photograph.
A real one, not burnt at the edges. 4 people around a kitchen table on a Sunday morning. Him, Imani, Zuri on Imani's lap, Aunt Deborah holding a skillet. The burnt edge photograph of Keisha from his wallet has been moved to a drawer. He opens it sometimes. He does not need it the way he used to. Power without witness is loneliness with a bigger office.
The people who see you when you are nothing.
Those are the people who tell you who you are. The people you see when they are nothing, those are the people who tell you who you have become. Somebody once handed you a napkin, a ride, a sandwich, a seat on a bus when you could not stand up, a word when you had nothing to give back. Type their name in the comments. If they are still alive, they might see it. If they are not, someone else will. And start deciding who they want to be.
Not me sitting here like,
bruh. Being good when people watch? Easy. Being decent when nobody's looking? That's who you actually are, bestie. No filter, no applause. Just the real you. Kindness is free. Cruelty always costs. Go be somebody.